which is on the line, Dr. Shreelekha Palle. So, उहाँको छोटो जानकारी हाम्रो इन्फर्मल चिन्जान त सब सिक्यो सो जस्तै पनि एउटा सानो छोटो जानकारी चाहिँ के छ भन्दाखेरि Dr. Shreelekha Palle is into a medical field. She is a doctor and she also has a full-time thing, but she is also very active in the community. She is a chairperson of the Asian American Virginia Asian Advisory Board that reports to the governor of Virginia. She's the chairperson. And I think previous ANS president Jeevan Tiwari was also once a member of that board. Everybody knows. Besides that, I think she's also a vice chair of the Congressional District 10 of the GOP, which is mostly a Fairfax and particularly more. But I think the group here is also interested to hear on both topics, Dr. Palle, on WAF as well as your GOP activities, what you do. All right, it's all you.
If you don't mind, can I stand up? And feel free to tell me to shut up. I am always like, I don't want to go on and on. It's always nice to talk. Of course, thank you for having me. Had I known it was going to be a large event like this, I would have put a little more makeup. It looks like I just woke up, just took a shower and came down. But in any case, thank you for having me as you said, Shreelekha Palle. I'm the advisory board and also GOP 11th Congressional District, not the 10th, 11th Congressional District, which is Jerry Connolly's district. That's how people remember. As the VP said, I'm going to elaborate a little bit on my role with the Virginia Asian Advisory Board, but a little more about community engagement, if that is okay. First thing, I think you said that right. This is like so nice to see so many people kind of come together on Sunday. That's what I think keeps our communities a lot more engaged. Because you could as well just be sitting at home and watching TV this morning, but you chose to come together. That itself tells you that you want to continue to be engaged within the community and engage with America. And then kudos to young generation. I know they were pulled out of their beds and be here, but that too, I mean, I couldn't do that with my son, so I'm glad that you are here. So this is very inspiring to me. So I'm a mom, I have 2 kids. If you kind of wondered how I got into politics, back home, my dad was a mayor of that small town. I come from a very small town. And it took me a while to get properly educated. My mom, my mom not superly educated, but she was always focused on me getting educated because she felt like she didn't have many opportunities because she couldn't speak English. So she sent me to a Catholic school, which was about 10 kilometers from my home. I was in 4th grade, the first girl to sit in that red government buses, if you know, and then go to a town at 7 a.m. to attend school from 9 a.m. So I remember sitting outside the Catholic school from 7 to 9 a.m. because I was the only child that was coming out of town. So that's why I prioritize education so much, because it took me a long time to get fully educated and get a degree. So when I had kids and they started going to schools, I kind of felt something was not right in education system. I don't know if my young kids can relate to that. I mean, they teach sexually explicit materials. Sometimes the focus is not on math, reading, and so on and so forth. So at a certain point, when my son was in 3rd or 4th grade, he got into trouble for some small reason, and they felt like they were boxing these Hispanic kids and Indian kids and letting go of certain kids, right? So that's where I think it just clicked on me, saying that no, if I'm not involved in my kids' education and just send them to school, they don't get in trouble, they will not achieve their full potential. So that's how, if anybody wonders, hey, how did you end up getting, it's not like you don't come to United States and say, oh, let me be an activist, right? But something has to trigger, and that was my triggering point, where I said I have to be involved in kids' education. So I started paying attention to the reading materials in school, started asking principal questions, is this explicit sexual education necessary in 3rd or 4th grade? I know education of sexual education is important, don't get me wrong, but explicit materials, is this necessary? And then I continued to stay very active within the community after that. I was the president of Durga Temple. That's how I'm very attached to the Nepali community. The Nepali community had lots of festivals within Durga Temple. And then obviously Sujit got me more involved and so on and so forth. Now as a Virginia Asian Advisory Board, I helped the governor, lieutenant governor, and Jason Mioris, who is the attorney general, get introduced to our communities. When Governor Youngkin, when I reached out to Governor Youngkin and said that he needs to hear us out, he was 3% in polls, literally 3% in polls. I took him to Bombay and brought in all the leaders that I knew of. I tried to bring them, I love data, so I presented data. He's in one part, I think, I don't know now, Democrats and Republicans, so that's specifically what we talked about. I just talked to him. I said, I like really guy. And of course, we had the money to run a great campaign because money is very much necessary in politics, and also felt that he got into the race with good motivation. So when I brought him for PowerPoint presentation, I really did a big PowerPoint presentation saying that these are the immigrant communities that we have in Northern Virginia versus this is what you have in rest of Virginia. I call it as ROVA, rest of Virginia and Northern Virginia. And I broke down the data to say these are the Indian Americans, and I gave approximate numbers that I could get from Google, right? Some communities have great data, like Chinese Americans have great data, Korean Americans have great data, because they have been here longest in the community. We are newer generation, like you guys, Indian Americans. We are like what, first generation, now our second generation is coming up. You seldom see the third generation. I mean, how many of us can say we have like 20 grandchildren in our house? It's pretty good there as our kids starts to grow, but we are not there yet, right? But I try to tell them these are the voters and these are the issues that they care. We care about healthcare, we care about entrepreneurship because we care about making sure we have financial security. We care about our children's education because we do know that education is the best way to move up, upward mobility in our communities. Right? And last I said, the ones that we don't do a great job is civic engagement. I mean, Shreelekha has been involved in politics and has been working so hard to kind of gather all of us together, but there needs to be more of them. There are unsung heroes, like all of you do great work, but nobody knows about the great work because our values are being humble. Keep doing karma, right? All our values are the same. Then we come back from our native country, they say, work hard, keep your head down, and it will play itself. So we don't go out and tell mainstream America that I have a scientist in our community that published a book, I have an environmentalist, I have a company. We say that very little. I don't talk about my healthcare background as much unless somebody has a healthcare question, right? Because we are taught to be like, stay humble, just get the work done. But I try to tell Governor Youngkin that these are the things our communities care. So whether it is B or if you can relate to our communities and we really do a good job telling us what you're going to make changes, I said our community will start working for us. That's where the parents matter about because I said we care about education and a lot of discrimination of our communities happening in education. So if you can focus on that. So ultimately we obviously want to say this myself, but there are also people like me, right? Moms and entrepreneurs, small business owners coming together. A lot of our shops were getting looted at that time because of policies where they were bashing cops in this Northern Virginia area. There were a number of, I think, Nepali businesses too during that Black Lives Movement where they were getting smashed and so on and so forth. So we brought that to Governor's attention, Lieutenant Governor's attention, and Attorney General. Attorney General's role is he's like the main cop of this town, right? So brought to their attention the safety concerns we have with our businesses and so on. Fast forward, they all won. All three of them won. Including Lieutenant Governor, who is now running for governor, which I'll talk to you a little bit later. And then after winning, that's when he put me on Virginia Asian Advisory Board. And then once I became the chair, it was great that Sujit always was advocating for your community. He would send me resume here and there and say, can you push it out? And my goal is to literally get one person on the board. Believe it or not, there are 800 boards and commissions in the state government, right? But not a lot of us know about those boards, and not a lot of those boards are super important too. There are some boards that are super important, there are some boards that are not important. So the 7 boards that are important are Virginia Asian Advisory Board, Hispanic Board, there is LGBTQ board, and those are the boards that have a lot of influence because it was an advisory board to the governor. So he gives us an opportunity to meet and advocate for our communities. But there are a lot of professional boards. Let's say if you are an agricultural specialist, there's a board for agriculture too, so you can put your resume. I highly encourage all of you to look at your interests. You don't have to do it if you're not interested, but at least 3 or 4 of you, hopefully you take the message, go back and try to put yourself in one of those boards. And if you're not getting anywhere, because bureaucracy still exists, whether we like it or not, sometimes they get pool of applications and they're like, I don't know who this person is, so I'm just going to disregard. Just bring it to our attention, because I'm absolutely comfortable going and telling Commonwealth Secretary that this resume is amazing. He's written a book on environmental sciences. Department of Agriculture is a great board for this, and look at the Department of Agriculture board members. There is no immigrant around here. We really would like to see one of our community members get in. We can at least advocate for ourselves, right? And that is so important. So I want to end that conversation there by saying that get into the board, because that would be your way to voice your community. Because it's great that we do a lot of good work with our communities, like building a community center, building all of that, but if we are not in tune with what's going on in mainstream America, it's easy for our communities to get neglected. And when our kids are in trouble in school or whatever the reason may be, we don't know anyone in state officials to get to them, right? At the end of the day, we live in America. If we are not in tune with what is happening with America and the culture and the politics and the people, then our kids tend to get left out, right? So I always would say integrate yourself into state board, whatever it might be, your interest. That's one thing. The second thing, I'm sorry, I know you asked me to elaborate on
your role as a vice chair.
My goal as a vice chair, thank you. My goal, again, Sridharji has done this long before I've done, so I have to give him kudos for it. But I've been seriously, that's a big deal when not many immigrants would come out and even put their name or spend time. It's commendable that somebody had to do that since Ken Cuccinelli's era. That's 22 decades of politics, right? I'll give a short story. Again, I don't want to take too much of your time. Give a short story. I went to Obama's rally because I was an Obama voter the first time around. Long story short, because one of my friends was president of some South Asian organization and stuff, and if you are an Obama fan, continue to be, because I was too at certain point. This has nothing to do with the person, but when I went to his rally, I had this nice VIP pass. So I sat in the front, thanks to my friend. I took my son out of school that day. He was in 5th or 6th grade, I don't remember. I put a tuxedo in a hot sun. I thought meeting Obama is such a great thing, obviously, right? He even came down, he shook my son's tuxedo and said, "Oh, what a handsome boy you have." I said, "Thank you so much. This is great." All of that was wonderful. But once he started speaking, there was a moment of realization where I felt like he was spitting against community. I always have the mentality of community connections. That's why I hooked on to Sujit as soon as, because I feel like unless we all come together, we don't have the power. As individuals, you can only do so much. You can do more as a community and a connector, right? So I just felt that he was trying to filter between communities, like African American communities, white Americans. So I didn't care for his speech as much as I cared for him when I voted. So I came out and I said, I don't think I want to be associated with this kind of politics, because I want to be a community connector. I'm very patriotic. That is my dad was a really early our road. So he always told us community service is important. Big community and so on and so forth. That's when I met an artist, CRC, which is Fairfax and Community. First, they looked at me always as long as they thought I was a boy. you need to be in the community. You as a CRC leaders, 11th congressional district leaders, have to be in the community. Talk to them about how bad it is. There is a good reason you guys are not winning in Northern Virginia. They only have 30%, 34%, right? If they keep doing this, if they're casting the same Catholic votes, white votes, and Christian votes, I said you will never win. So that's the responsibility I have taken on. My responsibility is going to communities and talking about the things that they're advocating for. They're advocating for school safety, school policy, so explicit content, and so the focus is more on math, science, and making sure our kids are not discriminated. So their policies are very focused on America first, resonating what President Trump right now is saying. And that is where my role is. I go to community engagement like this and kind of talk about what 11th Congressional District and Fairfax County's Republican Party is doing, how much now they understand now. Thanks to Sridharji's efforts or all of our efforts, in 10 years they start recognizing and acknowledging that our communities are important. I mean, kudos to Democrat Party. They have realized this all along. Republican Party is finally starting to realize that. So they now want to hear us out, which is amazing because a lot of them are getting elected, as you can see, top down. We have President Trump, J.D. Vance, I mean, top down, great, strong leaders. And the minute now, because there is a realization in the local communities, hopefully our voices will be better heard and we'll be integrated with them. I'm going to stop right there. Happy to take questions. I'm sorry, let me, go ahead.
You want to elaborate, you said. In
Lieutenant
your profile,
Governor, right?
Lieutenant Governor, as well as elected Vice Chairman, you said
Yeah.
in your profile it says that. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so when you want to obviously run for these leadership, I also actually ran for Sully District. I know some of you. 2019 or 2018, you're good. My God, once lives
They
in
live
my
on the same
community.
street, right?
That's what I'm
I
saying.
voted you, but that
Thank
time
you.
I think you lose, right?
Yeah, I lost. I was about to say I did lose at that
She's a
time.
runner-up.
But I mean, I got through primaries with Republican Party, all of that, but lost, and I wasn't surprised at all. Again, I always say, if you belong to a party that's only delivering 34% election after election, what makes me think I'm going to win? But I think I ran to make a point to say, you know what, we immigrants are capable of standing up. We actually run businesses here. Our students go to these schools. I mean, we are integral part of American mainstream, and we have the capability to contribute as much as anybody can contribute. So I think my goal was, let me make it a point to tell them somebody like me can actually run a campaign and actually work on the policies, and our communities are better represented. If I won, probably that would have been great. It's no loss. I always say everything is fair in love and war in politics, right? You just do the best you can and then you move on to the next thing. So, I mean, I know a couple of your community members, the Palle community members are already elected officials, which is phenomenal, but we need more of them, right? I always say the elected officials have to be proportionate with how many people are in. So I hope some young generation would step up to the plate and just get involved. I see a incoming leader right there. He's already at Leadership Institute learning and stuff. And again, I always say politics doesn't mean that you have to be an elected official. I think that's a notion immigrants have, right? Including me. I thought if you're elected is the only way you can do well. That is not at all accurate. I am telling you, non-elected personnel behind do more work and can influence things much more than actually an elected official. Elected official like delegates and senators, they're just passing the bill. But who is giving them? Who is advocating what bill needs to be passed? Are actually people that are active. So if you don't get elected or you're not interested in election position, I say you have nothing to lose. You have so many roles that you could play, which actually influences. And I'll tell you one last thing. In Fairfax County, we advocate for Diwali. It didn't happen one year. So if anyone is getting off on the Rosh Hashanah, Diwali, Eid and stuff, you gotta thank us. I'm sorry, I have to take the credit. There were like 4 of us that really pushed and said, we want our kids to be off. Not that we want our kids to have more days off, but I said it's super important for all of you guys to acknowledge that this is the major festival for us. And with the demographics of so many kids, they have the right to stay home and celebrate with families. just like how Christian kids can celebrate Christmas, right? So that was like the tone. And I also said once in a meeting of school board members, I said, if I was in Alabama, I probably wouldn't ask for Hindu holiday or Diwali holiday because there are not many kids, right? But in Northern Virginia, we do need, because there are a gross number of kids. So as non-elected officials too, you can contribute a lot just by being engaged. People will hear you out if you know you're right and you're going to be persistent. That is going to be my final message. I'm sorry, I'm sure I went a little long.
No, but you're still missing the point on your GOP profile says you're the elected vice president, right?
Oh, God.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. God. I don't know if it says elected or Sully or something.
It says elected. The recent one says.
Elected chair, vice chair maybe?
Yeah.
I saw with the 11th congressional district, you have certain position, you have to run within the party to win. That's how I got as 11th congressional district. I think like I'm studying Shreelekha. Rosie Oakley is the chair, and I got elected right underneath her as a vice chair. We can, if I didn't have to actually have a mainstream job, I do have a full-time position too. I work for a major healthcare system in the place. I usually don't say that out just because I don't want to be a conflicting, but I also have small healthcare consulting for myself, so I'm kind of busy in my professional life. Otherwise, I would have loved to run as a chair, because again, if I feel like if one of the immigrant gets into the chair position, there is a lot more acknowledgement of immigrant communities, and that is what we need to do. So hopefully that kind of fills what I was saying. But another one, since he said about elected Lieutenant Governor Vincent Sears, is an amazing lady. She is an immigrant. She came from Jamaica. When she was 5 years old, she always talks about dad who came to this country when Martin Luther King Jr. was having those riots, civil rights moments going on, with $75 in his pocket. He came here, and Vincent Sears, currently Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, is running for governor. I just hosted a fundraising event about 2 weeks back, and I believe I accepted.